While nobody expected House of the Dragon to be such a hit after the way Game of Thrones ended, the prequel show stunned the audience with one phenomenal episode after another. It immediately became a fan favorite. In fact, some fans even started to claim that it was better than the source it was based on. And in today's video, we're talking about the biggest changes the show made to the books. Let's get started. First up, King Viserys Targaryen. Long before the show came out, George R.R. Martin told his fans that the Viserys on screen was much better than the one in his books. And if that's not high praise, we don't know what is. House of the Dragon's main story revolves around the Dance of the Dragons, the Targaryen Civil War, but the first season took its sweet time to build up to it. Officially, the dance starts with Viserys dying, which could be why the book didn't have too many layers to this character. His relationship with Rhaenyra was never explored too much, and his reasons for his daughter taking the Iron Throne were never detailed. But the show didn't make this mistake. Instead, we saw a father who loved his daughter so much that he went against the wishes of the entire Seven Kingdoms to give her her birthright. Together, Viserys and Rhaenyra gave us the most important, heartwarming, real, and nuanced relationship in the first season, and we wouldn't want it any other way. Huge props for this go to Paddy Considine's performance too. He couldn't have been better. Next up, Aegon the Conqueror's dream. Arguably, this has to be the most significant change from Fire and Blood. The king revealed Aegon's dream to Rhaenyra after he named her the heir to the Iron Throne. Now, the gist of the prophecy is that a Targaryen must sit on the throne to unite the Seven Kingdoms against a dark enemy from the far north. That's the White Walkers. Viserys stated that this secret had passed from king to heir since Aegon's time. It was physically preserved through the Valyrian steel cat's paw dagger. Yes, the same one that Arya used to stab the Night King in Thrones all those decades later. But in the book, Aegon doesn't know about the White Walkers. In fact, his motivations for the conquest of Westeros are different on paper. Remember the prince that was promised prophecy from the Song of Ice and Fire? Well, the show version of the Conqueror's dream resembles that more closely. Even knowing how Thrones ended, it'll be super interesting to see how the prequel show carries this forward, especially after that scene between Rhaenyra and Daemon. Following this, let's talk about the princess and her uncle. Speaking of Daemira, the show changed bits of them as well. It's important to note that the Fire and Blood book isn't all that historically accurate, as it's narrated by maesters, who aren't the most reliable source of information. In the book, the early days of Rhaenyra and Daemon's relationship are unclear. Some accounts say that they had some sort of sexual history before the princess's first marriage, but some accounts deny it entirely. It's hard to distinguish who's right, but the show didn't leave this up for interpretation. We saw Daemira have insane chemistry before Rhaenyra marries Laenor Velaryon, and subsequently Daemon marries Laena Velaryon. It's after Laena's death that the pair comes back together and gets married. Still, in the source material, this was a very political decision, and it had very little to do with how the two felt about each other. They just knew they were stronger together. But in the show, it's obvious how much they want each other. In fact, them coming together almost feels like it was always meant to be. What's more, Laenor's disappearance was changed. For Daemira to end up together, they had to get rid of Laenor, and the show was much kinder to him than the book. We saw that Velaryon wasn't all that happy with his life with Rhaenyra, despite having the freedom to do pretty much anything. So she puts him out of his misery by letting him leave with his lover, Sir Carl, while they frame it like he had died in a brawl with him, free from the confines of royalty. Happy ending for all involved, but it wasn't always like this. In the book, book, Laenor was actually killed in a fight with Sir Carl, and it's believed that it was at Daemon's command so he could marry his niece. Fans took issue with this chance as his dragon, Sea Smoke, was still well and alive, and a dragon cannot bond with another rider unless the previous one is dead. In Fire and Blood, Sea Smoke was claimed by Laenor's rumored bastard, Adam of Hall. So could that come back to haunt House of the Dragon Riders? Anywho, we don't know about you guys, but we're glad somebody got away in this world. Coming up, Laena's death. In episode 6, we say goodbye to Laena, but not how we did in the books. Fire and Blood had the Valerion die after a horrifying childbirth. She tries to ride her dragon, Vhagar, one last time, but collapses before she can get to her. House of the Dragon dramatized this even further. We see Laena suffer a super painful childbirth. We also see her sneak out to reach Vhagar, but instead of trying to take flight, she commands Dracarys. After some initial hesitation, Vhagar sets her on fire, a warrior's death. Moving on, where is Daeron Targaryen? House of the Dragon completely ignored the existence of Viserys and Alicent's youngest son. Of course, he was a dragon rider too, like his siblings, and rode the very blue dragon Tessarion. We didn't see or hear his mention in the first season, which was a bit odd at first, but it's been explained by George R.R. Martin himself. The creator of this world wrote that the showrunners simply didn't have enough time to incorporate Daeron's character into the opening season of the show, but he wasn't forgotten at all. In the opening title sequence, Alicent's bloodline shows us 4 connected streams, one for each of her children, each represented by sigils. Her youngest son was shown as a cup, which is consistent with the books, as he squired and served as cupbearer for Lord Ormond Hightower in Old Town. Not to mention Rhaenyra and Alicent's friendship. This is another major plot point where the show deviated from the source material. In Fire and Blood, the two were never friends, not when they were younger, and certainly not as they grew old and further apart. They were always on opposite sides, never even on friendly terms, but the show made this relationship significantly different. In the very first episode, we're shown that Rhaenyra and Alicent have been lifelong friends. They almost seem inseparable until Viserys decides to marry Alicent. Even then, there's no burning hatred between them, only hurt and betrayal. In episode 8, the two even seemingly reach a peace agreement, with the Queen expressing her desire to see her stepdaughter more often. Even in the finale, we see Rhaenyra tear up when Otto Hightower hands her a page from a book the two friends used to read together when they were younger. Here, this relationship is way kinder than the one in the book, as there was no love lost between the two women in Fire and Blood. Up next, Rhaenys at the Dragon Pit. You'd be lying if you said this wasn't one of your favorite scenes from the show. We see Rhaenys make a grand entrance, or should we say exit, on her dragon Meleys. In the penultimate episode of the season, she annihilates Aegon's coronation as she breaks into the room on her dragon. At that moment, the queen who never was had the power to end the war right then and there in favor of the Blacks, but she chooses not to and flies away to Dragonstone. Fans have wondered why she didn't just end things there, but there's a very simple answer to that. There wouldn't be a season 2 if she had. The creators responded by saying that it wasn't her battle to finish, but that's not true, as her granddaughters and grandsons are very heavily invested in this battle, although it makes more sense when you find out that this never happened in the books. Lastly, Lucerys' death in Storm's End. Alright, this one is going to hurt. Not a very fair match, but Lucerys versus Aemond in the finale brought this season us into the perfect clothes and officially put a start to the Dance of the Dragons. It's so significant that it happened in the book as well, although not in a very similar manner. In Fire and Blood, Aemond was chasing his nephew on Vhagar with the full intention of killing him. He was out for blood, and he wasn't going to stop at anything less than that. He goes back to King's Landing expecting a hero's welcome, and forever earning the title of Kingslayer. But, the show didn't do all that. Lucerys died when Vhagar bit his dragon, Arax, in half, but it's after Aemond loses control. He can be heard yelling, "No, no," as his dragon goes rogue and kills the prince. So, in a way, the war that will pretty much bring an end to the Targaryen stronghold in the Seven Kingdoms started cause one of them couldn't control his dragon. Not a very glamorous way to go out, if you ask us. And that's a wrap for this video. Do you think it's smart for the show to deviate from the book? Let us know in the comments below. And give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Goodbye, and see you at the next one.